All right, we're going to get started. You all know him, Charlie Robinson, host of many podcasts, most notably Macroaggressions, author of several books. He's here tonight to talk about the Independent Media Alliance, and I suspect we might talk about some other recent events as well. So give it up for Charlie.
Can I use that where you want? Is this one on?
Yeah, just pull that one off.
Hello. All right. Yeah, I'll take it off.
That way it won't die.
Are we good? Can you hear me? Yes. Hi, everybody. How are you? Good to see you all again. I want to tell you what I've been doing since the last time I was here. I created a ton of extra work for myself. That's what I did. I was approached last summer in just out of the blue by the owners of the independent news website Activist Post. Activist Post has been a fantastic resource for all sorts of independent journalism, you know, this sort of the people who are doing actual journalism, not the Kyle Clarks of the world, but you know, the people who are talking about real things. So that's why Activist Post, along with Zero Hedge and WikiLeaks, were suppressed in 2016, part of that Disinformation 200 group, and they got squashed and had their advertising revenue turned off by the big systems and all that. And they really went through it for years and years and years. And I loved Activist Post, been reading them for a long, long time. And last summer, I got an email from the owners, and they said, you know, we've been doing this for 15 years, and we're really proud of the work that we're doing, but it's time to do something else. Would you be interested in taking over, carrying on the work, and buying Activist Post? And I said, absolutely not. That sounds crazy. I would never do anything as retarded as that. That's just a waste of my time, and it's going to create more effort and all that stuff. And then I went and thought about it for 2 more days. And what happened was that earlier in the year of 2024, when I was in Mexico at an Acapulco, I had one of the nice things that you can do is you can add on an a la carte experience to your trip. And maybe it's an actual trip, like a psychedelic trip. And so at the end of my week at an Acapulco, on the Friday, I had scheduled a Bufo ceremony with Shaman Bearheart out on the beach in Acapulco, beautiful setting, and we went through the whole thing, and it was amazing as that is. And I had this really deep feeling afterwards. It's hard to explain because it doesn't get conveyed to you with words, but it's just like a knowing or an understanding. And it was a feeling that I was going to have a much bigger voice. And I thought, well, that's a weird thing to be told, but I guess I have a podcast and I write books, and so it's kind of logical. And by the way, at the time I was at that event, I had a trailer that I'd cut to try and get investors to pitch in money to turn my first book into an 8-part documentary series. So, you know, the universe is telling me you're about to have a bigger voice. And I'm going, oh, it's got to be this 8-part series, right? It's just got to be. And I didn't really think much of it, and months go on, and then I get that email from those Activist Post guys, and I dismiss it. I mean, I emailed them back and said, thanks for the offer, but, it's just not something I could do at this point. And then, like many people, having, taken a shower a couple days later, it hit me. It was the light bulb went off. Hey, dummy, that's what the universe was telling you. The bigger voice is Activist Post. It's not the other thing. You need to, there's only so much we can do. We can present these opportunities for you, but we can't make you take them. You're going to be in charge of that. And the next day I emailed him back and said, you know what? You're right. I'll buy it. Let's do it. I signed the paperwork and bought Activist Post in an all Bitcoin transaction. So, we keep it off the books and nobody needs to know what's what. And so, but I said to him, look, guys, I can't do this right now. This is June or July of 2024. You got to give me 6 months, give me a couple months to do it. So they said, actually, that's fine. We'll put it all together. So for the tail end of 2024, we rebuilt the site just from the ground up. We didn't even have control over it. We just built a dummy site and made this thing so that on January 1st, we had a functioning website. The Activist Post Part 2 was up and launched. We rolled it out, and so far the response has been fantastic. Now, this is not the sort of thing that you do because you think that there's a way to make a bunch of money in it. At least I haven't figured it, or that wasn't my intention to do it. It occurred to me right around the time that right after I had signed this documentation, I get an invite. I get a message from Whitney Webb, Ryan Christian, and Derek Brose, and they said, and I've known them all for years, and they said, we have an invitation for you. We have something we're interested in talking to you about. Perhaps you'd like to watch this video that we've made for you. Just take a look and see what you think. And okay. So it's a 15-minute video, and it was an idea that they had called the Independent Media Alliance. And they said, what we really want to do is we want to get a group of people together, people that we trust, writers, editors, people who have been right on a variety of things. You have to have gotten a couple things right. You have to have gotten COVID right, and you have to have gotten Israel right. If you are deficient in either of those categories, get out. We're not interested in, I was confused early on, or I thought maybe it was this or that. No. If you fell into those traps early on, it's automatic disqualification. But one of the things that was interesting that Whitney said during this 15-minute video that I was watching, she got to the 6-minute mark and she said, it would be great if we had a website that was like Zero Hedge, where we could just have all of our articles and things like that. And I was under contract and I couldn't really say anything about it. So I messaged Ryan and I said, Ryan, you got to just call me. I'm going to have to talk to you like I'm a hostage. And he's like, what's going on? And I basically just came out and I said, you're going to have to swear that you're not going to talk about this, but I have your Zero Hedge solution. And he's like, really? I said, we've got it. So when January rolled around, one of the things we did is we built a section on the homepage at the bottom of Activist Post. There's a link you can click for the Independent Media Alliance. In the tail end of 2024, they put this group together. I'm going to read off who is on the list. You probably recognize some of the names. Besides the three who started it, also James Corbett, Catherine Austin Fitz, Jason Bassler, Richard Grove, Jason Burmis, Carrie Wedler, Hervoy Morich, Ian Davis, Steve Poikinen, Kit Knightley, and Kat Black from Off Guardian, and Melissa and Aaron Dykes. So it's a pretty nice list there. I'm glad to be a part of it. But I'll tell you, this all came about because if I were to make a list ranking my biggest frustrations, the mainstream corporate media is at the very top. They have been driving the getaway car on every important American event in our history. I mean, whether it's JFK or 9/11 or COVID, none of those things would have been pulled off if it wasn't for the help of a corrupted media. And if it was just about complaining, I'd have a PhD in that, because I have a long list of grievances, and we can pull out the poll and I'll list my grievances with the mainstream media, and it would be endless. But ultimately, I screwed up. I wound up becoming the media. Now I have the job of doing the job that they refuse to do. And it's been a fantastic experience for the last, I don't know, what are we, 9 months in now? It's like being an information DJ or something, right? I get to pick and say well, this story here is going to go this morning, and this story here is going to go in the afternoon. We do about 10 stories a day, and I'm not writing any of them. We're just republishing them from people that you would probably recognize. If you are reading the Brownstone Institute, anything from the Ron Paul Institute, if you like Off Guardian, we've got all of it. If you are interested in, you mentioned Scott Horton, anti-war, I got Kyle Anzalone and Dave DeCamp and all their stuff up there. Unlimited Hangout, Whitney Webb, the crew over there. Anything that Unlimited Hangout's putting up, I'm reading their RSS feed. I'm getting it right when it comes out, and it's going out on Activist Post as well. If you're interested in Bitcoin Magazine, we peel a lot of their articles off. The Last American Vagabond, you can find their stuff there. Anyone like Grand Theft World, Richard Grove, are you familiar with that? I had a really nice, they were nice enough to ask me to co-host this summer. which is a lot of fun until you realize it's a 7-hour podcast and it goes until like 2:00 in the morning on a Sunday night. I mean, you're like, God damn, what have I signed up for here? I'm doing cocaine all throughout the, no, I'm just kidding. But you're, 7 hours with those guys, it's fantastic. But we pull all their articles and we take a look at a lot of the, the stories that they're pulling to create their compilation video. We're taking a look at that. The Dollar Vigilante, of course, and International Man. You familiar with Doug Casey? Yeah, Doug Casey's fantastic. We had, just on a side note, Berwick and I got Ron Paul to agree to write the foreword to our book, our Controlled Demolition book, and we were so impressed with ourselves, patting ourselves on the back and everything. And 2 days after he agreed to do it, he had his medical incident on camera. If you remember that in 2020 when he had like a mini stroke and it was really scary to watch. And we thought, oh God, what do we do? We got him on the hook for it. It's like the last thing we need for the book. And he said he'd do it, but he's in a hospital and we don't want to bother him. So he said, Dr. Paul, we appreciate it. It's very nice of you to agree to write the foreword to our book. We'll let you off the hook on this one. You recover. And we'll catch you later, And so who do we have? Well, Doug Casey. Doug Casey is he's not second place to many people. I mean, maybe only Ron Paul, but Doug Casey's fantastic, and he runs something called International Man, and he's the one that sat Jeff Berwick down in 2002 and goes, you know what you are, Jeff? You're an anarchist. Jeff's like, what's an anarchist? And then it's the only ideology that everybody is in agreement that they love it until you tell them what it is. When you say anarchy, they go, oh, I don't like that. That's too much. But this is just I'm here to ask you to reevaluate your relationship with the mainstream media. I mean, or with the media in general. I'm sure this crew has already told the mainstream media they're not interested, but my God, there are so many people in our lives that are getting information in small, bite-sized pieces. 5 minutes here, news at the top of the hour. Israel defending itself launches 80 missiles at something. You're like, oh, well, Israel has a right to defend itself, and they go off into the world with these little sound bites of information, and then you have to have a conversation with somebody, and it's frustrating. We've got to change our sources. We've got to change where we get our information. I mean, you cannot rely on the corporate press to give you an idea of what's going on, because I saw something interesting. Speaking of the Charlie Kirk thing that we've been hearing about recently, I'm not in favor of government solutions to government problems at all. Let me just be clear. But they did say that this senator from Idaho or from Utah had proposed that they bring back the Smith-Mundt Act and rename it the Charlie Kirk Act, because for those who aren't familiar, the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012 legalized propaganda to be used inside America on Americans. And it's in a variety of forms and fashions in which that can be done. And of course, I mean, it's not to say that the corporate press wasn't lying to you before 2012. Of course they were, but now they're legally protected and indemnified so that they can lie and do all kinds of things with no repercussions. And so the idea that we're going to have to take back our news by, preventing the press from having the legal right to lie to you sounds like, I don't know, low-hanging fruit to me. But apparently that's where we are in this nation, that you have to ask the question, do we want to bring back the law that makes it illegal for them to lie to you? And everyone's like, I don't know, maybe not. Who cares? We're in a post-truth world anyway. Who cares? I don't care. But there's something that I think you have probably noticed that is happening. The mainstream media is dying, and they should, and they have nobody to blame but themselves because they're horrible. But that doesn't mean that the narrative managers are necessarily going away. It's just a new batch. We've got this new group that David Icke has affectionately titled the mainstream alternative media, which is perfect because that's really what they are. They're only alternative in the sense that you find them in a different location. They're not on your television set where you turn on ABC. That's about the entirety of how alternative they are. As far as narrative management and lies, They might not be as good as the professional script readers on television, but they're every bit as devious and everywhere, really. And so now we're getting into this new version where it used to be that you could just say, turn off your TV. Well, now it's coming through your computer. So now what do? You have to have a better level of discernment in terms of where you go for your information. And what we have right now is a low quality junk food diet of news that's out there. And you get what you get. If you're somebody that's going to live on junk food, you're going to be unhealthy and out of shape, and that's just going to be your reality. And if you're going to consume poor nutritional informational content, you're going to be out of touch, and you might even sign up for some medical procedures that you've thought you needed, but it turns out you don't. So it's one of those things that it's not just annoying what the news is talking to you about. It might actually kill you. But I think one of the secondary components that people don't really talk about too much, we know that the mainstream news is lying to us. It's understood. But the lies by omission, I think, is what really catches people off guard. And I've had these conversations with people in my life who I would consider to be open to understanding, but just normies in their thinking. And that is this logical line of thinking, which is we use vaccines as an example because it's a good one to use. You come out and say, I think vaccines are dangerous. There's a lot of information that you need to dig into. There's more to this story than meets your eye. And you say that to your mother, or you say that to your whatever, your grandma. And they say to you something very reasonable in response. Well, that might be true. But if it were true, certainly I would have heard about it on the news. And since I haven't heard about it on the news, I don't know what you're talking about. And it sounds kind of fake. So there's this need to get it confirmed by hearing it on the nightly news. And see, the problem with something like vaccines is that they simply just refuse to mention it at all. So it's not so much that they're going to run that Anderson Cooper is going to wake up and have a come to Jesus moment and say, tonight I'm going to spill the beans on the vaccine agenda. Well, that would never happen, of course, because there would be a million people that would just replace him immediately. They'd get rid of him. But the people who are waiting for the big 60 minutes expose on vaccines, or they're waiting for the nightly news to do a real good dig into it, what they don't understand is that over $1 billion a year of ad revenue is coming into their news networks from the pharmaceutical industry. So there's 0% chance they're ever going to do it. So the incentive structures are screwed up. The media has they can't tell you the truth. Even if they wanted to, even if there were a couple good guys there, they can't tell you the truth. They would be replaced immediately. And even if everybody on the news staff decided that they were going to talk about it, it wouldn't be enough. So it's up to us. Unfortunately, I judge people by it used to be I would judge them on what are you talking about? Are you talking about safe and effective vaccines? Are you talking about what are you talking about? What are you talking about, right? Now, Tucker Carlson's talking about vaccines, right? Everybody's talking about vaccines. So it's no longer about what you're talking about. It's about when you were talking about it. So I was talking to our mutual friend, Sam Tripoli, a couple days ago. He's got this term that he's been kind of using in his stand-up routines and just on all his podcasts. He's talking about the information. Are you talking about it when it's safe, dangerous, like Tucker Carlson is, or are you talking about it when it's dangerous, like we are? And I think that's what separates a lot of people. If you want news from the future, like news that will feel like it's from the future, go to Activist Post. We're writing about things that are happening that the mainstream press, if they ever talk about it, they won't be talking about it for 18 months. And so the thing that we always try to advise people, like, hey, what's the quality of your information? If you were a bond trader or a stock trader or something like that, you would be judged on the quality of your information. Are you just getting your information from the LA Times or Denver Post or CNN.com? I mean, if you are, you should change that. You should reevaluate this. This is something that we need to, you play a role in this as well. We've all been kind of trained that we're just consumers of news, like what's on the TV, and you watch it. If you're watching TV, that's about the end of it. The extent, maybe you'll tell somebody you saw a story, but that's it. If you're physically reading it on your phone, tablet, or computer, you then have the ability to say, wow, that's not just an interesting article. That's an article that I think I need to send to a couple of my friends, or I'm in this text group with some people who might be interested. I know some people here at Liberty on the Rocks that might be interested. I'm in a chat group with them. Boom, send that out. So we need to be responsible for sharing the information with everybody else. I mean, I don't know how much you guys know about the social media reach of things like, independent news websites. But as an example, Activist Post has 470,000 Facebook followers. You know what that's worth? Jack shit. Absolutely nothing. I mean, I can post an article on there and I can see the metrics and I can look at how I might get 3 or 4 likes. And I'm talking about enough people following our account to fill the Broncos stadium 5 nights in a row. I get 3 people that like the article. Is it that they don't really like it? No, it's that they're not seeing it. We're not allowed to expand ourselves. So again, I didn't buy Activist Post so that I could get the Facebook followers. He told me right off the bat, hey, listen, they're not worth a damn. I said, well, I know that. I understand that. But just so you know, the way we laid out our site, we have 8 major categories. I think they do a pretty good job of covering everything. We have the economy, for obvious reasons. Empire, that covers quite a bit. Activism, because we're activists. Health, tech, crypto, podcasts, and lastly, most importantly, solutions. It's one thing to complain about this. It's one thing to say, hey, people, and shake your fist at the sky, and you'd be right to do it, and you'd have a lot of reasons for it. But if you're not also providing solutions, then it just sounds like complaining. It really doesn't sound like much else. And we set up an email distribution, or we've got an email list that goes out Sundays. Just started it a couple of weeks ago. So we're going to, Sundays, you're going to get a wrap-up newsletter called the Sunday Post. It's just a couple of the top stories of the week. This is what's going on. Take a look. I know you're busy. Check it out. Here you go. Read it whenever you want. And then on Wednesday, it's the solution series. So what we'll do is we'll find a problem that we're facing and we'll explain how we've got a sponsor that offers a solution, a product or service or something that can help you fix this problem. And then here's a couple other things. So we're trying to connect with our readers. We inherited that site, or we inherited the email list. So it's a lot of people from the old Activist Post. But the thing is, I'm the old Activist Post. I read it. People ask me, what's your favorite news websites, for getting if you want to get some good news. I did a podcast of my own in 2021. Thank God I did it, because I'm on record saying it, because that way you can tell I'm not bullshitting you. But they said, where do you go for news? I said, I love Zero Hedge and I love Activist Post. That's where I go. I get a lot of stuff there. There's other places, of course. So I think that it's important that we just, for those of you out here, if you're interested, if you get your news on your phone, just so you know, we didn't build an app. I know everybody's got an app, and that's fine if you're selling jelly beans or something like that. But when you're doing independent news like we are, you centralize control into the hands of the Apple App Store and Google Play Store, and that's a problem. So we didn't even do it. The Zero Hedge guys said, don't even bother. So you're going to have to bookmark it. That's all. Just the old way on your phone, or go to activistpost.com, get up on our email news list. And it's a fantastic one-stop shop. There you go. Fantastic. Great. You see it there. But I'm actually curious. I'm going to do a little test marketing here, because I'm curious where you guys get your news, because I know where I go, but when you're looking for something, I don't know. Let's say it's the Charlie Kirk thing, right? It's a breaking situation, constantly changing. You're on your computer, let's say. Where are you going? Where are your choices? X? Yeah, X is pretty good for the YouTube. What's that? Our conspiracy. Okay. Anyone? Telegram and Signal. Yeah. Yeah. Corey, where are you going? X. Yeah. Nobody's going to CNN.com? Nobody's going to CNN Plus? CNN Plus? $250 million, 3 weeks? No? 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 Yeah.
I'm a BillO'Reilly.com member and premium subscriber, concierge member. So he's not mainstream. Well, kind of is, but not quite.
Bill O'Reilly. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about Timcast these days? I think he's making money too. I wonder where he's getting it from. No, I mean, I would watch Timcast. I would watch it, watch little shorts, while I was making lunch or something, watch that and everything. And then I just stopped. Something happened there. Just kind of felt I know, isn't that a shame? Yeah, he's tough. I know. But every now and then you get some good guests on there, or they'll get some good fights.
The IRL just because it's an open conversation and it's a tough discussion
Sure.
about the news.
Yeah. I do like Shane Cashman. Shane's a good guy. I don't know about the other ones, but this is the thing: is that our news is changing, and I realized that I just had to be a part of it in some way, shape, or form. Writing books is amazing, and I really liked it, and I never thought I would ever do it, and now I don't think I'll ever stop. But the problem is that you get a 2-year window of writing if you're really putting in the effort, and then it's and anything that happens afterwards, the minute after you produce the book, anything that happens after is not going to go in, and it can be incomplete. And so I like the idea of the books, and I will continue to write them. I'm working on my 4th book right now. But then the podcast came around. I was like, oh, this is even better. You can kind of talk. I was doing twice a week with that. And now with Activist Post, it's 10 times a day. And I just have realized I might have bit off more than I could chew. But this is, the reason why I started writing books and the reason why it's kind of evolved into all of this came out of a real simple conversation I had with my mom back in 2015 when I was explaining some great conspiracy I had just discovered. And she said, this is all very interesting and it's fascinating and a lot of information about it. Period. That was it. And then she just said, what are you going to do with it? I thought, God, I don't know. What am I going to, I don't know. What am I going to do? I just liked it. I just liked reading about it. I just liked watching the videos and doing all that. I didn't want to be involved in it, and I didn't have any role. I didn't think I had but as that simple question sort of set me down a path, God, what would I do? Well, maybe I would write. I could write a book. I can't direct anything. That would be awful and embarrassing. So why don't I do that? So I wrote a book. I started writing a book, and I was just real quiet about it. Didn't tell anybody, because I didn't think I'd finish it. But I tell you, halfway through that, it changed, and I knew I would finish it. I just didn't want to tell anyone because I didn't want somebody to stop me. And after that, I felt like, okay, I've got a role in this. We'll see how it's constantly evolving. But I just didn't want to be the one who's screaming about the media, rightly so, of course, but then not offering anything in its replace. So, really glad the guys reached out to me about that. Had any of you guys heard of Activist Post before? I mean, it's been around for 15 years. Yeah, I know, Alan, yeah, but they said to me, this wouldn't be good. They said it'll be fun to watch because we've never done any promotion for it. It's always been us and nobody knows who we are. And I mean, nobody knows who the owners are. I only know one of the 3 guys. I never even met the other 2. They said, well, we're just keeping it down low and under the radar. But you like to talk. You have a podcast and you're out there promoting it. So maybe you'll do all that stuff. I said, well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the plan. We got to get the word out on this. So I hope you guys will all, add it to your media library and sort of just take a look. I mean, there's enough going on for everybody, and sign up on the newsletter too, because when I was hosting a panel of content creators in Mexico at an Acapulco. And we were asking, I was like, what's the best way for, what's the one thing that you would want to stress to your audience? They said, oh, sign up for the email newsletter. Really? Is that it? And what about you? Everyone said the same thing. Email newsletter, all of it. Okay. Elaborate. And I said, well, because when your YouTube channel gets cut off, like Corbett would say, oh, it's going to happen. You got to sign up. You got to come to corbettreport.com. It's going to be gone. I'm telling you, this channel's going away. You're watching it on YouTube right now, but I'm telling you, it's going away. And then it goes away. Right. And what happens? Everyone goes, oh, James, when his channel comes back a couple months ago, 5 years later, they go, oh my God, James, you're back. I thought you got out of the business. He said, did you not listen to anything I said? So what I learned was that if you have content creators that you like who say, like, sign up for our newsletter, dark journalist, sign up for our newsletter. And you're like, man, I'm not going to ever. You know what? Sign up for it just so they can keep in touch with you. And there's a channel there, because when it goes and your channel's cut off, you go, I did put all this work in for nothing. I watched, Aaron and Melissa Dykes just go through that recently, talking about this YouTube channel. They go, we've been building this for 13 years, and they turned it off one day for nothing. And that can happen. And if you get separated from the people that you're used to watching, you might think that they just decided to pack up the Corolla and move to Tahiti, but they didn't. They're there. They're just getting shadow banned or outright throttled. So to the extent that you can, if you find something that you like, share it with your friends and family, and go from there. You guys have questions? What do you? Oh yeah, audience questions.
I wanted to talk about the media. In your opinion, what was like so obviously they got COVID and Israel and all these other major stories wrong, but what was like the most interesting story that no one knew about that they were just completely fucking out of their minds on?
Oh God.
Kind of a hard question, I'm sure.
You mean like the normies were
No,
going?
like the media. Like there's one small story, I don't know, and then the media was just like, they just ran with it, but most people aren't aware of it.
Well, when I think of media screwing up stories, my mind immediately just goes to Sandy Hook. I'm sorry. In my head, I just go Sandy Hook, media. That was when, in my mind, that was when things changed with the media. After that started, that was what, 2012?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
ironically, the same time the Smith-Mundt Act was taken.
Yeah, exactly. Right after that, the Smith Modernization Act gets passed and things start to change. The media landscape is well, look, there's opportunities for independent people, people like Activist Post. We have opportunities to get we're not trying to be the biggest, of course. I don't care about that. I just want the right people reading it, And so that's, if you guys can help spread the word, of course, we would appreciate that. And you don't even have to be American to read it, because I look at our demographics; it's all over the world. People are reading it everywhere. Frankly, I don't know how they even found out about it. I'm surprised and flattered and glad, but I don't know how it all works. So, go ahead.
Awesome. Excellent. I've just been yelling on the internet for 13 years, doing
Yeah.
my own thing. Started with on the ground journalism, activist stuff here, but so if I understand it right, you are working with Activist Post. You are not, like, you are in contact with the owners, or
I'm the owner.
You are the owner. Okay.
I'm the owner and editor now.
How do you feel about what's your thoughts on Ground.news? Do you know about Ground.news?
No.
So Ground.news is a aggregator of news sites from all over the world, and it's actually super great. You definitely should look into it, because
will.
I think this is a perfect avenue for you to network with, because they aggregate news sources from all over, and they basically pan the political spectrum on what the bias is, how the bias is, who's reading it, what countries are reading it, and it's a super aggregator of like all kinds of mainstream and independent.
Oh, excellent.
And if you can find a way in there, and you put out credible stuff, and you rep the stories, I'm sure you do, but like, you could easily skyrocket to like Zero Hedge level.
Nice.
If you get that level of non-bias, consistent, truthful reporting.
Yeah.
I think that's a total.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna-
but we could talk more later. But
let's do.
my question to you is, what would be the most prevailing message demographically? Like we're talking, there's let's say under 25, let's say 35 to 40, or 35 to 50, and then like there's obviously like I think 3 categories of demographics, and I feel like there's 3 different types of media approaches. Like, especially when you're talking about your Facebook, right? Like, I think there's a lot of Facebook reach for older folks.
Yeah.
But like some of the new folks, they're like goldfish. They need that 30-second,
I know.
Tim Pool type reels. How do we navigate this territory?
Yeah, that's a good point. We added a podcast category, made it one of the 8 categories. And the reason for that was because I am still in the process of learning how everybody consumes their information. As a writer, I write a book, I read books. I don't listen to audiobooks. So because of that, I didn't put my audiobook out for a while just because I didn't know there was really much need for it. And then I finally did, and the audiobook sales were through the roof. And I thought, why didn't I do that sooner? Well, because I was using my own biases of I don't listen to audiobooks, so therefore everybody else doesn't listen to audiobooks. Really stupid. And I didn't make it a priority. And so I've had to kind of take into consideration now, okay, everybody gets their media a little different. Like some people like to watch it. Some people like to listen to it in the car. Some people like to sit down and read it on their computer. Some people want to read it on their phone. I don't know. It's a variety of different ways. So the podcast component we put in there specifically because I don't want people to think that this is, if they just get their, I like a variety too. So if I'm just reading an article, I'll read an article and switch to a podcast episode if it's presented to me. So it's created like it looks like another article, and you click on it and there'll be a little text and then the podcast episode there, and you go, okay, that's great. So we wanted to make sure that we have a different, visual, if that's how you get it, in the form of video and obviously text, but send it to your mobile device. That I knew was going to be a big thing. I'm old school / old, and I'm like on my computer. My daughter is on her phone. Like she's getting everything on her phone. So knowing that, I said, we got to make sure that the app, that our site really kind of rips on mobile and is secure. And so it is. And in terms of like how people get their news, I mean, they get it in very short. Unfortunately, the problem is the story takes this long to explain. They want it in this long.
You need 2 minutes or less, right?
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Kind of where I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, you really do. And so, how do you do that? And so, it's something that we'll have to constantly be figuring out. But in terms of like, are we going to go to like a Reels or TikTok type stuff? No. Like a lot of the articles that I put up there, some of them are like long Whitney Webb 45 minutes to read the article. Like get yourself a cup of coffee and get comfortable. It's going to be a while. Some of them are like 2 minutes, you're done. A little bit of everything. But if you want to deep dive, one of the things I did away with when it came to picking articles for each day is that I really tried to stay away from stuff that's extremely time sensitive. You won't see a headline that says Bitcoin reaches 117,000 today. You know what I mean? And it won't be anything that's extreme breaking news or time sensitive or subject to change or might make this story obsolete in 5 minutes. So we're really looking for more like deep dives and go ahead and unpack. If you want breaking news, quick little sound bites, probably best somewhere else, I think.
I'm not familiar with your website, so this might not apply to you, but I'd like to get your take anyway. So one of the issues that I found is, I'm going to take my in-laws as an example. The typical Social Security is great. People were eating cat food before. I think they're good people, but they're just misinformed, right? They look at John Oliver, what he says is the truth and whatsoever. Right. So if I want to try to change their mind, again, I don't know your website. I'm going to take your website as an example. If I tell them, hey, look at activistpost.com, there is a very good chance that they say, look, there is this white background, there's low resolution images, and Israel is wrong, and the COVID is wrong. This is all a bunch of bullshit. And so my point is, I think the chances of success of doing a 180-degree flip is very low. We need to go slower. And so I don't know in what experience, but what is the path that it gradually was going to bring you to make your website, in their mind, a believable source of information versus, because again, if 5% is a solution as a 180 degrees, they're going to call bullshit, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I can use my in-laws as a prime example as well. I can definitely see this with you. Some people aren't going to change. My mother-in-law is still trying to vaccinate my daughter. She just turned 14. It's not happening, lady. It's not happening. We're not doing it. So I've decided that with some people, you can present all the evidence you want. You know, facts don't matter. They have their feelings. So for them, I don't know. I think with regard to delivering the news, like aesthetically delivering the news, it's one of the reasons why I brought my buddy Jeff in to help with the overall design layout. And I said, I want this to be simple and clean. I don't want a bunch of blinking things. I don't want a bunch of things flip. You know, I want a normie to look at it and not think it's internet gibberish or conspiracy horseshit or, you know, tinfoil hat type stuff. I want it to look like real news. And it is. And of course, the writers, the irony is that the people who I'm republishing at Activist Post are actual journalists. The people that our in-laws are reading are propagandists. You know, they think that because it's delivered to them from $1 million set on a $50,000 camera, that makes it important and therefore it must be true. When in fact, it's all part of the show. It's all propaganda. In fact, they know that, and it's right. The better it looks, the more believable it will be, the more professional it will seem, the more realistic it will appear to people who use that metric to judge it. We all do. So you've got to make it look great for them, right? But I've also come to the understanding that we're not for everybody. And some people are going to see the articles. They'll recognize the names of the writers. I mean, there's writers that are well known, but the topics will be a little funky for them. But I try not to scare people away because I'm with you. I can't club somebody over the head and just say, look at this as much as I'd love to. Look at this information. Can't you see it? They sometimes just can't see it. They won't see it. They don't want to see it. And so for those people, go not see it somewhere else. You know, I'm not trying to appeal to them. We simply are presenting the articles here. And if you've got a problem with the articles, take it up with the person who wrote the article. But I think we do. I think that the younger kids are way more open to this current paradigm of what we're facing. I've been a bit surprised by that. And but there's another demographic, an older demographic that's just been comfortable in their ignorance for a long time, as frankly we all have been with regard to the media and the lies that we're told. I take media lies personally. I get offended. I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to my psychological operations. I demand A+ quality psychological operations. And frankly, they've been bringing the JV team for a while now. And it's quite embarrassing. But you know, I think that our relationship with the news has been broken on purpose. And I think maybe the best thing that can happen is that everybody throws their hands up and goes, I don't believe what's on the TV anymore. You guys are lying to us. You've lied to us about everything. You lied to us about COVID. You lied to us about, there's always an invisible enemy around the corner. It's coming to kill us if we don't give up our more money and give up our freedoms. And where's the terrorism you promised us? Where is it? Where are all the boogeymen that were right there? They were just going to get us. They're not there. In fact, I think the media is the boogeyman, frankly. So I just have such a lack of respect for them. And now that I've become the media, it's just so disappointing.
Thank you for taking this on. It's quite the endeavor.
You want it?
No,
Just kidding.
no, I worked for media my whole life.
Oh,
but
did
it's,
you?
It's you've got a tough task. And so, given that, what's the process you use to vet your stories? How do you know? Because it stops
Yeah.
with you. You make the decision.
Yeah.
You have an editorial board.
It's me.
Okay.
Yeah, it stops with me. Well, for one, it helps when I know the writers. That's a big thing. Now, we don't have staff writers. We have writers who contribute articles, but a lot of the times I can go through the Independent Media Alliance group and I have an RSS feed that's pulling all of their stuff. So I can just take a look every day and see I could run the website just on their information alone, be enough. But I bring in other voices, international voices. I've got people all over. I've got a great guy in Poland who writes amazing articles about health, and it's like, where have you been all my life? Keep sending stuff in. So I read the articles. I take a look. They're, not all of them get through, of course, but we've got. But I've been reading articles for so long that I get a good sense. I mean, a lot of these people, it's interesting for me to say, well, I'm republishing your work. What you don't know is that I've been reading your work for 10 years going, oh, this is great. Now I get a chance to say, it's great. And now more people get to see it because I know who this guy is. I've been his obscure blog that nobody reads. I've been reading it for years. It's amazing. Why doesn't anybody know about this? Well, they're going to know about it now. Grab it. Boom. It goes up. Here's a new person. They've got this great podcast. They just interviewed some person that's, I've been know that guy. Grab that, watch the interview. That's great. That's going up. And so we can set it. I try to set it a day in advance as well, just so that I know that in case anything comes up, I know that everything is scheduled and ready to go. But I have almost an oversupply of articles to pull from, to be honest with you. At this point now, I've weeded out all of the riffraff, and I've just dialed in a great group of about 100 writers that I can just look through and not everybody's writing every day, of course, too. So sometimes you get this, and then I see a headline, just a headline, and I go, I can tell you right now without even opening this that it's going to be Michael Snyder from the Economic Collapse blog. I click on it. That guy knows how to write a headline, So start to get familiar with the writing styles and the content, and it all works. And we're not going to get them all right, and we'll make mistakes as you do, right? But we'll own it and we'll say, oh, maybe we shouldn't have run that one, but whatever. I'm proud of the writers, and eventually the plan is, as this evolves, is that we'll move into a premium feature called Activist Plus, and we'll have that with articles that are being written by the writers specifically for the site, and then I'll be able to pay them. So that'll be nice for me to be able to do that, because writing articles for the, there's no money in it. You write articles because you love writing articles. You write books and make money because you can publish them and put them out. But writing articles, unless somebody has hired you specifically to write articles, is just a labor of love. So the very least I can do with somebody who's put a ton of time and effort into it is to read it and evaluate it and put it up if it fits with what we're talking about. So yeah, I love it. Like I said, it's like being a DJ. What's the vibe today? Got my headphones on.
So you mentioned earlier that the corporate media was to blame for much of the actual misinformation that's been spread throughout our country. I guess the question that I have for you is, do you think the corporate media would have been able to do that were it not for the public education system and the Prussian education model? And is it possible to really cut off the head of the snake without, I don't know, I guess it's a snake / octopus, because cutting off the other tentacles.
I feel, were you spying on me today? I just had an interview with Etienne de la Boete Squared. Do you know him? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were talking for an hour about education, about the education system. It's like, it all comes back to that, I mean, if you had the proper education system, the kids who turn into young adults, who turn into actual adults, would be able to decipher. The mainstream media would be impervious to them. They'd just say, it's bullshit. We can tell this doesn't make any sense. But because the kids haven't been taught how to think, they can't even analyze the media. So they don't know whether it's true or not, but they wouldn't even know how to get to the bottom of it, even if they had questions. So, and it's the education system is a huge problem. Unschool your kids. Of course, all by design. Yeah.
So you're talking about national media.
National media, yeah.
Do you delve into the local stuff or the state level stuff?
No, I don't. And that's not because it's not important, but only because everybody's coming from so many different places for this website, and I have to appeal to the broader. I'd say it's 70% American, so I could probably make some generalizations there. But I don't do too much of the local, only because somebody in France would have no interest in what was going on in Denver, unfortunately.
But just between us in this room, do you have any insight into the local or state level, like the Nexstar Tegna merger, and just the general media landscape locally?
Well, other than watching the Sinclair Media compilation video where you see everybody saying the same thing at the same time, I mean, when somebody takes a look at that and they go, whoa, what is happening here? Why is everybody reading off the same script? And I think that's sometimes when you can shake people and say, your local media, you think, we know the national's compromised, of course. And then the local, it gets a little bit more personal. They're kind of goofing around. You get a alleged relationship. Oh, I watched this news show in the morning, or I watched this in the evening. My contempt for the media actually started in sports, in the sports level. I'm a co-owner of a media training company for professional athletes. We get guys ready for the draft and interviews and public speaking, commercials, getting ready for broadcasting, all that stuff. And I spent years sitting potential, future professional players down and explaining to them, the media is not your friend. They're the enemy. They may think they may sweet talk you and talk real nice to you and everything, but if that guy doesn't have a story to write and it's due in 3 hours, he's going to write about the thing you told him off the record. So you need to reevaluate the relationship you have with these people. These people are snakes. And so I had just an utter contempt for the media because I watched what they would do to unsophisticated kids, these athletes, just to get a story. And that feeling that was like combination of national and local, because we were in Florida doing this at the big IMG academies there. We would see these kids come in there and they'd be able to compete off the court. The media would in fact infect their lives to the point where it screwed them up. We watched several of our clients just get derailed. I mean, Michelle Wie was a perfectly good golfer. The media drove her insane. We're watching it happen now. So my contempt for the media is astronomical, national or local. But in terms of the local, what's going on locally with all that, I just know that there's a lot of consolidation, and that's never good. I mean, I'd like for it to be decentralized as much as possible, but that's just not how it works anymore with private equity and these groups that just collect everybody into big groups and then get them to all say the same thing or do the same thing or whatever.
Well, I've written on Twitter, if we all thought that, if Nexstar comes in and 9 News shuts down and, Kyle Clark's going to be kicked to the curb, but that may or may not actually happen, honestly, because, he's already got these high ratings and,
Right.
And Fox 31 may end up absorbing him somehow or whatever. We don't know. We're not going to know until next year. Right. Whenever the deal actually happens and approved and it actually happens. But, and John Caldera, if anybody saw his column about that, it's basically, like you said, decentralizing. There's going to be less TV airspace overall to cover a total amount of stories that need to be covered. There's going to be less airtime, and less space to cover a certain breadth certain amount of time to cover all that. If it's just going to be under one newsroom, so to speak, under Nexstar locally at the Nexstar mothership.
Yeah, you got one source.
Exactly.
That's
and then the other thing is, if Tegna had 60 some odd stations around the country that Nexstar is absorbing, and a bunch of them are going to close down around the entire country, and Kyle Clark is just a product of that for the past 17, 18 years. Yeah. So, in many ways, you can't necessarily blame Kyle Clark. I mean, you have to kind of blame Tegna because
What did he do to get on your shit list specifically?
Oh, it's a long story.
Okay.
It all started with the Jeffco and Ian Silveri with that whole Tabor deal with the Jeffco 1A ballot measure, and he would not report any of it, and I kept poking and prodding him when that all happened, and he refused to report it, and then of course I became a troll to him.
I couldn't imagine working in corporate press, because if you had an original thought and you wanted to drill down on it or go off the script for a little bit, you just could never. And then you would be, you could theoretically be a good guy trapped inside a bad system. I'm not saying that he is, but you could be. But that.
The last comment I was just going to quickly make, though, is that I think
Sorry, we got to move on. We're going to do 2 more questions.
the last comment is Nexstar could easily be a case of meet the old boss.
Sir, this is not moving on. We got to move on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The Independent Media Alliance, I know you're just one part of it. You didn't start it or anything.
Right.
But is it likely to grow with some additional people?
I think so. And the real purpose of it was the reasoning was we've got to kind of work together, company store type thing. You know what I mean? Like we got to help each other out because everybody was getting throttled. Obviously, Whitney's a big name and she gets on all the shows. But she was saying, you guys need to get on the shows too. I need to get you on Glenn Beck or Patrick Bet-David or wherever, And by the way, she's turned down Tucker 3 times. Which he's not happy about. She's like, it's not on my calendar. He's like, why won't you come to Maine? She's like, because I live in Chile. He's like, we'll fly you there. She's like, I'm not interested.
Then the follow-up question, in terms of what's the criteria then for maybe trying to find some of these new people, in addition to what you're doing at Activist Post, like soliciting articles from maybe the Gray Zone and Max Blumenthal.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of curious in general.
Max's article with Anya Priampel is out now on Activist Post as well, the one that he wrote about Charlie Kirk and Beebe. Yeah. Yikes. There's if it were up to me, the list would be even bigger than it is. Obviously, I'm not in charge of picking it out, but I would imagine it'll grow. I'm still getting to know some of the people on the list. We're still, they're new. I mean, I know the names, but I don't know them very well. I got a chance to meet Catherine Austin Fitts a couple of weeks ago. I was like, oh, it's cool. I'm fine. I used to send her videos to my mom and say, see, like sometimes you got to know like the demographics, right? I go, this is a smart, nice lady from Tennessee. You're a smart, nice lady from Tennessee. You watch her videos. You watch it and you got to know how to sell it. So my mom's like, oh, she's amazing. I'm going, that's Catherine Austin Fitts. Yeah, you know what? You should dig into it. She found $21 trillion that went missing, or she found that it is missing. And, oh, really? I didn't know about that. So, the IMA is something that will grow over time. The people that are a part of it right now are simultaneously like the best people doing it, and also just getting totally unappreciated by the mainstream. I kind of like told Whitney, like, you should go on Tucker. Like, I know you don't really want to, but like the only way to do it is to go on there and like defeat bad information with good information. Go on there and blow his mind. She's like, well, yeah, maybe at some point. So the luxury of turning that down.
Okay, last question. So I can't let you go without asking you about the Charlie Kirk shooting.
Yes.
And specifically, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think Israel did it, as 90% of the internet seems to? And what do you think about the media's response to the whole thing?
Well, I think the media's response, as normal, is abysmal and gross, but not surprising. I think that Israel is involved, as they often are. I don't care if you weaponize some kid and put voices in his head and get him all riled up and give him the gun and he does it, and you want to say that he's the one that did it, not the people behind him who are instigating him. They have a long track record of being involved in this. And I will also restate the motto of the Mossad: by way of deception, thou shalt do war. Okay, so no bigger indicator of deception than what the mainstream media pushes every day. This is an incident that will be talked about for a long time. Well, until it's not, until it's pushed off of the news cycle and we're on to, I don't know, something else, some new event that's taken our attention. But I've got an episode coming out on this on Wednesday that it's Israel. I'm sorry. I mean, you might not know who it is and they might not lead the guy out in handcuffs today, but over time they'll dig into the background and they'll find out that there was intelligence involvement and it had fingerprints on it, and they'll eventually find who it was, of course, because that's how it goes in this country. We are under occupation. And some people are in denial of it and some people are not. I think that either way they win, though, because whether you've got the general public whipped into a frenzy on the right wanting to go get all the trans people that are causing this whole problem, or whether you've got the left saying that Charlie Kirk asked for it or whatever, it doesn't matter, because in the end, it's all Operation Gladio, USA. It's all strategy of tension, get people fighting with each other and causing more chaos. And as long as we're doing that and we're focused on battling red team versus blue team or right versus left, then we're not looking up to see who's really pulling the strings on it. So
That's our talk. Give it up for Charlie.
thank you, guys.